Greetings and welcome, everybody. Today is Sunday, August 8, 2021. I'm joined here with Michael in Germany. Science is the New Religion Script, Session 29, From Magi to Magic, Version 2. Michael, welcome.
Welcome, dear Brett, and thank you, dear listeners, for taking the time, and also thanks, Brett, for taking the time. This is session 29 of 300. Just kidding, can be 400. This is From Magi to Magic Part 2. Last time we spoke about the origin, that it came from the tribe of the Magi from Medo-Persia, actually, and so that this time we are intensifying our study here, what's it all about, where science has been derived from, what relations are there to the Bible, and everything else. So thank you very much, Brett, for taking the time. 29. 371 to go. Last time we spoke about Hocus Pocus, or Hoc est Corpus Enimium, or something else. So people say that, oh, there could be different explanations for the origin of that verse, or actually of that spell, Hocus Pocus, a reference to the action of magicians or of people who are practicing like magi, so like wise men in the context of a religious ceremony, often as a stereotypical magic words when bringing out about some sort of change. There was an American president lately.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I remember this guy.
He received a Nobel Prize, I'd say. He received
because he was such a good swindler. I mean, and same with the people.
Don't accuse anybody. We are not mentioning any names.
So, hey, when you're that good at swindling, you do deserve a Nobel Prize,
Oh, yeah, because you see that all these worthy prizes actually mean that you are making it big time in this un-Christian or antichrist world. Imagine, it cannot be otherwise. If you are one of the richest persons, then you serve the system. If you are one of the most prolific persons, you serve the system. If you're one of the most famous persons, you have to serve the system. So you're in the system, you're part of the system, and the system awards you and said, oh, you will be granted a big prize. That's always the same. I'm not against that system. They can do it as they like. The problem is that the system affects us, because they are putting out regulations, legislations, and all other kinds of fancy stuff to make our life very miserable. So a change can be to two sides, from good to worse or from worse to the better. I don't know. But this is about to change something. This is magic. This is supernatural. We're in the fields of the supernatural. So once again, there are many explanations about the origin of Hocus Pocus, but I'd say that Brett and me are both agreeing, and many more other so-called professed people of the Christian faith also, that it is derived from the Latin word of the Catholic Mass, hoc est enim corpus meum, meaning this is my body. So that was the content of the last session. Yeah, so it could be a corruption of the hoc est corpus by way of ridiculous imitation of the priests of church in Rome in their trick of transubstantiation. Ui, what a great color this is. You see, this is an imitation of the priest of the Church of Rome. Once again, it's a magic word, and it's derived from priests of the Church of Rome. Interesting. Once again, the connection of magic to priests, to religion. There are many other possibilities where it could derive from, but you see that, to make a long story short, Old Nick is also a very well-known English abbreviation for Satan. Aha! So the origin of Hocus Pocus. And also there are some historians named Sharon Turner, who says it's derived from Ocus Vocus, a magician and demon of the north. So once again, it has nothing positively in itself. Okay. And also this can be mentioned here. So that's that. Now it gets more interesting, I hope. Since the 19th century, academics in various disciplines have employed the term magic, but have defined it in different ways and use it in reference to different things. Yeah, speaking of ancestry. One approach associated with the anthropologist Edward Taylor and James G. Fraser. Oh, sorry, James G. Fraser. Oh, there was an interesting book. It's called The Golden Bar. It's magic and cannibalism and everything else, which you would like to read. If you like to read it, you would be in one league with James Dean and Christopher Lee, who both have something in common. They are both interested in that kind of literature, and The Golden Ball was a kind of blueprint for The Wicker Man of Mr. Christopher Lee, where he played the main role. So they use the term to describe beliefs in hidden sympathies between objects that allow one to influence the other, or like a vision, like in a vision. So there are many, many, many other things which come into handy these days, but we will cut that on that behalf here because I don't want to go into modern times. That we will do in the later approaches of the series. So the main purpose to understand what is about magic. Magic is a practice of so-called wise men, of so-called magi's, a practice of religion to be in contact with the spiritual world. That in just short sentence. There are differences, they tell you, between white magic, gray magic, and black magic. And that's the same approach as in the famous television series we once had with David Bowie when he had his so-called White Witch of New York, Wally Elmlark, where we have played an insert of an interview from Bob Larson with the daughter of Anton Sander LaVey, Zina Schreck, when he approached her and asked her, isn't that possible that there is a difference? Your father, speaking of Anton Sander LaVey, the so-called founder of the Church of Satan, said that there is actually no difference. A witch is a witch is a witch. And she said, yes, that's right.
In the satanic rituals, really puts out some zingers at the witches who want to be white witches. He says there really is no such thing. A witch is a witch is a witch.
That's right.
And therefore, there's only no difference in white, gray, or black magic. The purpose is different, but actually the source is the same. So, magic is magic is magic. Which means this is a religious ceremony. You try to get in touch with forces, with spirits, with entities. It has nothing to do with a telephone conversation of two natural people. Nothing. So what is the official explanation? White magic has traditionally been understood as the use of magic for selfless or helpful purposes, while black magic was used for selfish, harmful, or evil purposes. So that's quite interesting. You see, white is the color of spirit. It's the color of pureness, of virgins. Yeah, remember why people are having their wedding dress in white. It means she's a virgin. Yeah? She's not spoiled. White means it's pure. It's pure. It's pure light, and white is absolutely the absence of darkness. So white is the purified virgin is going to be married. You know what the purpose of marriage actually is. So white magic is to help others. That many people claim, oh no, I'm not doing anything evil, I'm just doing white magic. It is to help others. Problem? You have to be in touch with the so-called spiritual world, and there is only one Holy Spirit, but numerous unholy or evil, unclean spirits. So you get in touch with the spiritual world nonetheless. With respect to the left-hand part and the right-hand part, dichotomy, is it dichotomy, Brett?
It's dichotomy, yes.
Dichotomy, okay. Thank you. Black magic is the malicious left-hand counterpart of the benevolent white magic. Why it is? Why that is? Because Jesus Christ is sitting, is the righteous one. He's sitting right on the right side of his Father. I had to look it up in the Bible somewhere. On the right side of God. Ah, there. Once it. Yeah. When Jesus is seated at the right hand of God, it means all other things and other beings are under him. We read this in 1 Peter 3:22. This is not necessarily the King James Bible, but it is Jesus is seated at the right hand of God. These people think that, okay, when you do it right, it's the right-hand path. You see, there it is actually is derived from. You see that everything the occult side does or magic does has to be originated from the Bible. Otherwise, you don't have an opponent if you got not anything you can relate to. So there is no Satan without God. First of all, God has created Satan. And second one, Satan means opposer. There can no opponent if there is no target. So white magic means the use of selfless things, so in a Christian kind of connotation, to help others. Yeah, love your neighbor as yourself. And the left-hand path means that it's black magic, it's malicious, left-hand counterpart, and it means that actually you only serve yourself. This is an example from music. This is the band Santana with their famous song Black Magic Woman. And I think that is no coincidence, Brad, that she's got some kind of reptile eyes.
Yeah, it looks like cat eyes, actually.
Cat eyes, or yeah. So, but not man's eyes or women's eyes. Yeah? And Jay-Z is making his blue magic. It's not gray magic, and
Right.
other people, I have forgotten where that, but this originates from, also with the pentagram. It's called white magic, but I cannot recall from what kind of group it is. But it does not make any difference here. So, but if you talk about black magic, it means it's egoistic, it's Satanism, it's evil magic, and the white magic is supposed to help others. But nevertheless, it's magic, it's sorcery, it's witchcraft, and it has been forbidden in the Bible. Where it has forbidden in the Bible, oh, it's quite clear. It's quite clear when you go to the end of the world in Revelation 22. The last chapter of the Bible, the last book and the last chapter of the Bible, then look for sorcery. Yeah. So, for without our dogs, or please.
Oh, sure. Revelation 22, verse 15 reads, "For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers." Gee, Michael, what's a whoremonger? Isn't that someone who searches for a whore?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And murderers and idolaters. In other words, if there wasn't a demand for a whore, if no one wanted a whore, why would they be around? Okay?
Yeah.
And murderers and idolaters and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
Yeah, so a whoremonger is somebody who hires a whore. Yeah.
Sure.
So
Yep.
and you see that in this line of attributes, sorcerers are in one line with whoremongers, murderers, idolaters, and whosoever loveth and make it alive. So sorcerers are loving and making lies. Yeah. So let's make a long story short. Let's get back to the script. There's also gray magic, it's called neutral magic, but magic is not performed for specially benevolent reasons, but it is also not focused, blah, blah, blah. You can skip it here because you see that usually there is no gray magic. This is all BS. Because either you're doing it for yourself, or you're doing it for others. But there is no neutral magic. You see that it is something that you want to change. What we have learned, we want to have a change in something. Okay. So that is my gray explanation. Also, in current times, magic is a very prominent word, of course. In old times, in the Middle Ages, and nowadays, Bruno Mars, a world-famous artist, magic. 24K. Maybe something to do with gold. Don't know. He's sitting on a gold chair. Okay, this is Bruno Mars. I haven't heard one song of him. I don't care for modern music anymore, but just to show you. So once again, back again to the magician, to the magi, to the priest actually, who's holding out his hand or his wand, not only his hand, but ordering the forces down to earth. This is a depiction here of two separate tarot card decks. First of all, this is a Rider-Waite coming from the Golden Dawn Order, the magician, Rider-Waite, and this is from Crowley himself, the Crowley Tarot deck, which is actually a Thoth tarot deck. Thoth is an Egyptian so-called deity, which is so-called responsible for magic. And also, he's not only for magic, but also for artists and singers and arts in general. So can it be that artist uses magic? If you are not convinced or if you are doubting this, then please ask Mr. Bob Dylan or look at our Bob Dylan episode. And I think that he will come into handy. The Thoth Tarot is a divinationary tarot deck according to instructions from our world-class occultist, which is Satanist actually, with the name of Aleister Crowley. Crowley referred to this deck as the Book of Thoth and also wrote a 1944 book of that title intended for use with the deck. Don't be disappointed when I'm not going into this book. But tarot card reading is a form of cartomancy whereby practitioners use tarot cards purportedly to gain insight into the past, present, or future. This is foreseeing, actually. They formulate a question, then draw cards, interpret them for this end. A regular tarot deck consists of 78 cards, which can be split, etc., etc. The major secret and the minor secret here, it's been actually the translation of arcana, I mean just secret. Okay, so there are differences and also astrological correspondence. You got the elements in it, you got several things in it, you got several symbols in it. So it's very interesting if you're going down that path. But let me tell you, it isn't worth the time because you won't get any valuable information out of it. Because that after you have read that book, you're more confused than if you have never read it. Because everybody has his own deck, has his own interpretation, and has his own explanations. Yeah? So Crowley has combined it with the zodiac. Aha. Can you remember who used the zodiac in the first place, Brad?
Oh, can I remember who used the zodiac in the first place?
You 36 rulers, 6 by 6,
yeah,
6, 6.
Yes.
Aha. These were the guys from Babylon.
Ah, yes, that's right. Of course, because this is all coming back to me now.
Coming back. Yeah.
Yeah. Look,
Yeah,
this
sure.
is
If you look to that card here,
much more sinister than it looks like on the face of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you see here from the Magus. Yeah, you see that in Rider-Waite Tarot, it's called the Magician, but in Crowley Tarot, it's called the Magus. That's the Latin title of Magi.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and you got also the other symbols here for fire, earth, water, etc. It's a cup, it's a sword for air, etc., etc. And also you got a symbol of Mercury. Which name?
You know, Michael. You know, whenever I'd see this stuff when I was young, like this kind of art, and also the statues and things like this. You know, a certain word comes to mind. I just think it's kind of like a fruitcake. You know, you just what kind of mindset must someone be on to actually appreciate this kind of art? I don't get it. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
It does not make any sense unless you are in the Antichrist spirit. When you're in the Antichrist spirit and you're using many tools and you're trying to put out sorcery, witchcraft, magic, whatever you would call it, there are differences in it, then you can be successful. So stuff works until a certain level. Yeah, some stuff works. It's just, you see, as God supposes and gives somebody the Holy Spirit, other people are determined to be in an unclean spirit, and this unclean spirit is leading the people into destruction on the broad way. So the more popular anything gets, the more further away from the truth it necessarily must be. So when the majority of people said, oh no, we are absolutely convinced that this is so and so, then you can grasp on it that it isn't, because they are on the Broadway. And so that is my suggestion and my so-called prophecy, if you like to say so, not in a religious term, but in a general worldly terms, that magic and these kinds of divinations and incantations will spread like wildfire in the next few years, because when people are suffering, they automatically turn away either to God if they are saved, or other they are turning to the evil side. That's a big danger which I'm seeing on the horizon already. Yeah, you see all this prominently meditation and awareness trainings and yoga and all these Asian concentration techniques. Actually, they have religious background, but people do not see that because they are not educated. They are not trained in that.
Well, and even worse than that, they're introducing these things into so-called Protestant churches, like yoga.
Yeah, not only there, because it's everywhere, because people do not connect these things to old pagan religions. They just think that it's a sort of entertainment or a sort of exercise. Yeah, therefore that's called, therefore in yoga, for example, you bow down in front of the sun.
That's true, Michael, but whoever considers the full extent of the purpose of the Council of Trent that was intervened 500 years ago, or almost 500 years ago, because it's actually 450 or so. And whoever considers the full extent of, the purpose of introducing different doctrines into the church rather than just sticking with the Bible. How about that? How about just sticking with, the old Bible that everyone used to use? Oh no, we have to have new Bibles and new techniques, and we have to exercise. But how about looking at Ignatius of Loyola's spiritual exercises then, huh?
Oh, that will also be a big issue later on.
Okay.
But we are not in the 15th century now. We are just at Medo-Persia where the Magi began.
That's right. We're starting way back. Just, yes, that's right.
But of course, it's everything connected, and everything goes back to the roots. Yeah. Everything goes back to the.
This is the hardest thing to do, Michael, is looking back. Over 1,000 years. It's very difficult because we have to rely on what we have, the tools that we have. And they're limited tools. We don't have a great deal of knowledge, precise knowledge, let's put it that way, other than, say, the scriptures. We have to rely on a true testimony, not a false testimony. And that's getting pretty difficult for most people to, accept. So that's why history has been so controversial, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, but God gave you 2 eyes to see and a brain to comprehend. And if you're not in the right spirit, you won't understand. You see that how obvious shall it be? You see here, somebody is bowing down in front of the sun. It's called the yoga sun salutation.
Yeah, that's right.
They are worshipping the sun. You see that here on the last picture, even she's folding her hands, like in Catholicism. Yeah, how obvious. It has nothing to do with gymnastics. Okay, so let's move on. Just wanted to show you that Crowley, for good reason, used the Latin phrase of magus. Interesting. When it is a Crowley tarot deck from Thoth, which is Egyptian god, why is he using Latin instead of Greek or something else from that time? Why is he using Latin? Interesting. The Magus. Okay. So just wait for the computer. So Crowley has made the equivalent of the magician, the Magus. Yeah, and he has also some other equivalents. Strength is lust, justice is adjustment, etc. Not wanted to go into then. And judgment means the aeon. Yeah, the age, the aeon, the age of the Aquarius or the age of reason. And he said, oh, this is the age of Horus. Horus is the Tammuz of the Egyptians, let's say. This is a child of the pagan trinity. Yeah. So now you see titles and attributions of the Wan suit. You see number, sign, so the sign of the zodiac, and the deacon and the ruler of the deacon. You see the religious context also here. Deacon means a part of 10 degrees on the zodiac. Yeah, a circle bears 360 degrees. So a deacon is a tenth out of it. So it's 10 of 360 degrees. This is a deacon. Therefore, there are 36 deacons. That's why I told you that when you sum up the number 1 to 36, you have all the deacons. It sums up to 666.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. I double-checked that myself on a calculator. It's true. It's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and so it is then the 666 is the beast or the pagan god or the ruler of the zodiac. And who's the ruler of the zodiac? You see, in the pagan belief systems, when you are saluting the sun, they say that the sun is the power of source of everything. Yeah. And the name of the first number is the roots of the power of fire. Oh, power of fire. Okay. Fire means destruction, also in the Bible. Huh? Next, let's see it for Revelation 22. Yeah. Let's see it for Revelation 22. Fire. Oh, that was 21 then. One chapter before 21. Fire. The powers of fire are what? When you try to compare it with the Bible, then you have to read, for example, Revelation 21:8 read.
Okay. Revelation 21:8 reads, "But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death."
So fire is associated with death in the Bible. And when you remember of Molech and all these pagan gods, where all these sacrifices, child sacrifices were made, they were burned inside the statue. Yeah, if you don't believe it, you just look up at as long as it is openly free available on Wikipedia. It's Molech, yeah, and you therefore have the image, yeah, has something to do with fire, I'd say. The powers of fire are destruction. Also, God said that the next time that the earth will be destroyed, it will be by fire. So fire means destruction. I don't care if you go into this mythology or in that mythology, or if you go into Twin Peaks. Fire, walk with me means the pagan god. Please, Satan, walk with me. You don't believe me? You don't have to believe me. You have to look it up for yourself. Yeah, 7 chambers, the idol Moloch with 7 chambers or chapels for child sacrifices. Look it up. Fire everywhere. Fire, Passover fire. The activity of causing children to pass over the fire is mentioned in the Bible without reference to Moloch, but of course a reference to a sacrifice. Yeah. You got it everywhere. People think that it's common that fire is something good. Okay, it's warm, but actually fire means a pagan god, means Molech, means Satan. Yeah, meet Twin Peaks. Fire, walk with me means Satan, walk with me. This girl depicted here will be murdered soon in that television series. But it's just a minor thing here. Just wanted to let you know that fire is not the creator of anything. So the roots of the powers of fire, there starts the tarot deck. Yeah, great. What do you know what the outcome is when it starts with evil and destruction, huh? Okay, so that was just the thing that I wanted to sort it out. There are roots of the four elements. There are roots of the power of fire, the powers of water, the power of air. The root of the powers of air, what would that be in the Bible? I think Ephesians 2:1-2, Brad.
Ephesians 2 verse 1 reads, "And you hath he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sins, wherein in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince, the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience."
So the root of the powers of the air is for these people who were dead, or actually are dead in trespasses and sins, when they are working and doing the worldly things according to the prince of the power of the air. So the prince of the power of the air is deceiving the people who are dead, not were dead, because this is just the past, but actually the people who are serving the prince of the power of the air are the people who are serving Satan. And these people are dead in trespasses and sins. Yeah, so the root of the powers of the air, the prince of the power of the air. Huh? You got it. It's Satan once again. Yeah, the root of the powers of the earth, we can go to Mother Earth, etc., etc. But you get the picture. And Crowley was a Satanist, and he's almost officially promoting Satanism.
But Michael, I think it's very interesting when we went through this earlier, and we were discussing Aleister Crowley's parents, who are actually under the influence of the diabolical teaching of the dispensationalists, the beginning of the dispensationalists. And Crowley rebelled from his parents, their teaching, and of course became a Satanist. But the apple did not fall very far from the tree, because when you go to the churches in this modern day and age, all you get is dispensationalism. And that's another doctrine of the devil. So it's just that, you put on your church clothes and you look nice and you speak about the gospel. But when it comes to the most important aspect of the Bible, which is eschatology, you fall flat on your face. Isn't knowing, or at least having some kind of warning about the future, important to God's people? Shouldn't they know what happened in the past and what's coming in the future accurately?
As long as they would care, but most of the people, they don't care. They live in the here and now. Yeah, so they don't care for the past or the future. They just want to live on, and they just want to be happy in here and now.
There we go. That's a pretty accurate assessment of the real problem, I think. Yeah.
That's one very interesting preacher about this, Eckhart Tolle. The power of now. There it is. A guide to spiritual enlightenment. I don't know how many millions he is selling about that book. Yeah, but you don't want me to go into this, because he's just saying that you have to be enlightened, and then everything else is will be fine. It's don't think about the past, don't look for the future, just live in the here and now. In other words, do what thou wilt. Is a spiritual teacher, German-born resident of Canada, best known as the author of The Power of Now and a New Earth Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. He does not identify with any specific religion, but he has been influenced by multiple spiritual works. Yeah, I cannot tell you from which spirits he had been influenced. He's been talking very slowly and very calm, and so that people think that he's the wise one. But if you've been recommended by Oprah Winfrey, okay, he hit the New York Times bestseller list in 2000. He read several books about mystics, and you can go. You see that he thinks he can educate others. That the power of now, he's just about, the power of now and the new earth.
Oh boy! Now,
timeless spiritual teaching, the essence of all religions. Now, the most significant thing that happened to a human being is the separation process of thinking and awareness, and that awareness is the space in which thoughts exist. Yeah. Then we go back to psychology, you go back to Greece. The spiritual awakening. Yeah, then guess what, if it's not the Holy Spirit, guess what spirits are then being called? The next step in human evolution. As if I didn't know.
There we go. That pretty much sums it up. All right there, just in a nutshell.
Yeah,
next step in quote-unquote human.
He's using teaching from Zen Buddhism, Sufism, Hinduism, and the Bible. Everything is mixed up.
Yeah, put it all in a blender.
And Jiddu Krishnamurti, where do we know him from? Jiddu Krishnamurti, Theosophical Society.
Yes, that's right.
Annie Besant. It's always the same. Always the same people, but with another name, with another title, in the power of now. Do what thou wilt. Okay, let's move on. I'm not ranting here, I'm just pointing it out. You do your own research. So one of the earliest references to tarot triumphs, and probably the first reference to tarot as the Devil's Picture Book, is given around the 15th century by a Dominican preacher in a fiery sermon against the evils of the devil's instrument. And I can assure you, this has just been quoted from Wikipedia. And why? Because you see that the print of cards was not common in Europe in the 7th century. But I can assure you that these cards in other cultures existed long before, not necessarily made out of paper. Because to get in touch with the so-called spiritual world, they needed some images and idols. That what is actually expressively forbidden in the Bible is being practiced by these tarot cards. No, you don't think so? Oh, why there are an empress? Why there is an empress? Why there is a queen? Why are these positions here? This monarchy, this hierarchy, also in the card systems? Yeah, but just don't want to go so much deep in it. But this is an excerpt of the book which contradicts this, 4050. But this is an excerpt of a book I found. I have to look it up, what kind of book it was. It was this. A notice of Ludus Triumphorum and some early Italian card games with some remarks on the origin of game of cards. Yeah, the earliest mention of cards occurs in 1377, and their history during the next century is obscure, so nobody knows anything. Okay? So you will get lost in every manly explanation or in any worldly opinion. Yeah, but we know that it has been going on for thousands of years that people actually are worshipping pagan deities. So what is Wikipedia telling us with the magician, with the tarot card? The magician, also known as the magus, hence the name from Aleister Crowley's tarot deck, or the juggler, is the first trump or major arcana, means a big secret, in most traditional tarot decks. It's used in game playing and divination. You see, every play with tarot is sorcery, because these cards actually were meant for that purpose. And I can tell you there are other sorts of cards who are also been meant for that purpose, but the knowledge had been lost during the last centuries. And there were also some other forms of tablets used in ancient times when they were not able to cut it out of a paper or print it like Gutenberg press. And it starts with the Fool, which is unnumbered or marked 0. 0 is the cipher for spirit. Yeah, but you see, if we would go down that path, I think we will spare things for further sessions, so that we will go back to that all of the stuff, and yeah, let's just make a little bit progress here. So the magician has a hand position as above so below, reference to the spiritual and physical realms. On the table before him is a cup, a sword, a wand, and a pentacle, representing the 4 suites of the minor, so little secret, arcana. Such symbols signify the classical elements of earth, air, fire, and water, hence the name of the American band Earth, Wind, and Fire. Why? Because it is a group, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Everybody, I think, knows that group. This is Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah. Earth, Wind, and Fire. What is missing? Which element is missing, Brett?
Water.
Yes. Why is it not mentioned here? Because the people consists of 70% of water. That's my explanation. Okay, so I made
there's plenty of people in that photo.
Yeah, I made several sessions about Earth, Wind, and Fire and their agenda, because the main singer of it he wanted to be a priest. Yeah, it's very interesting to go.
Oh, and he succeeded.
Yeah, but only esoteric. On the exoteric, he just was a singer. Yeah. Okay. So the magician's status is being interpreted like the hand gesture that they represent the magician's status as a conduit, so a messenger between the spiritual and the physical, or between heaven and earth, or between as above, so below. Okay? These are the cards. His robe is similarly white, and purity, sure, inexperience. I'd not say so that a Magi is not inexperienced, so that is also something. Don't know. And he has the roses of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. Lilies does not demonstrate the culture of aspiration or the magician's ability to cultivate and fulfill potential. This is exoteric. Lilies are known as the devil's flowers. But you see that what wonder, huh? What wonder. And the roses of Sharon also appears in the Hebrew, and of course in all the things that been influenced the tarot cards. Yeah, so don't go into this kind of things. Divination. These got so much occult beliefs and occult interpretations that we would need several sessions about it, because there are so many people who are using the tarot cards in this system or in that system with that deck, another deck with a smaller arcana, etc., etc., etc. Tarot experts have defined the magician in association with the fool, which directly precedes in the sequence. When a card game is starting with fool, what would you think? Is it a sensible instrument? Is it an honest instrument, or is it just to fool the people? It starts with the fool, but nobody actually thinks about that. It starts with the fool, and it starts with the letter 0, which stands for spirit. So these people are spiritually fooled. It's so common sense.
Now it's beginning to make more sense, Michael. When you associate magic with priesthood, then you can say this teaching of magic is a total deception, completely deceiving the people.
Sure, the poor is the opposite of the magician. You see, the magician is to be the wise guy, So there are people actually on Wikipedia telling you that tarot experts have defined a magician in association with the fool. Yes. Experts, huh? Like we got so many experts today. Yeah. Look at this. This is the fool who's just walking around, and yeah, he's just one step before falling down. This is the fool.
One step before death could be
One
the
step
abyss.
before death. I cannot grasp the fact that people are being fooled by this, but I think maybe I have to be more patient because I'm getting used to this kind of stuff for nearly 30 years. Okay, so let's get back. Let's get back also from all these tarot decks and all these events. So we got black magic, which is evil, and we got white magic, which is also evil, because a witch is a witch is a witch, and a magician is a magician is a magician. So that means he's using sorcery to get in touch with the heavenly dimension or with the spirits. The spirits, not the Holy Spirit, the spirits. It's the same in other cultures called shamanism. And people would like to see these people usually today in the medicine world as schizophrenia, because out of a sudden people sometimes are speaking with a different voice. Huh? Ask me Helena Petrova Blavatsky. She suddenly spoke Russian, if I remember well. And so the history of all the magic is, not Middle Persia, huh? But Wikipedia tells us it's Mesopotamia. Okay. So in general, magic was invoked in many kinds of rituals and medical formulae. Oh, this is interesting, huh? In medicine? Would be very, very actual recent event, huh? And to counteract evil omens, defensive or legitimate magic in Mesopotamia, in the Akkadian language, were incantations and ritual practice intended to alter specific realities. The ancient Mesopotamians believed that magic was the only viable defense against demons, ghosts, and evil sorcerers. We are not talking here about 586 before Christ. We are talking here about much, much earlier on. We're talking about before the Medo-Persians took over the world empire. So the tribe of the Magi most certainly or most likely existed quite before the Medo-Persian empire took over from the Babylonian empire, Brett. Mm-hmm. So the ancient Mesopotamians believed that magic was the only viable defense against demons, ghosts, and evil sorcerers. What would they say about their belief system? They say that they had to use magic, so they had to invoke spirits to have a defense against demons and ghosts. So one spirit against the other spirit. They could invoke these spirits, actually, because otherwise they would not have helped him. So they leave offerings, and if these offerings failed, they took a figurine of the deceased and buried it in the ground, demanding for the gods to eradicate the spirit or force it to leave the person alone. These were ancient beliefs, according to Wikipedia. The ancient Mesopotamians also used magic, intending to protect themselves from evil sorcerers. Oh, where do we know that from? Amulet, anybody? Who might place curses on them. Black magic as a category didn't exist in Mesopotamia. Yeah, why? Because Christianity actually didn't exist in ancient Mesopotamia unless the Israelites were going in captivity in the later Babylonian Empire. So how can black magic exist if we are speaking about the pagan religious system, where their magic is, of course, black magic, because they are worshipping dead gods or statues and everything else. So, of course, when they are using magic in their system, from the biblical standpoint, from the Christian standpoint, every magic is black magic. there is no difference between black and white, because you are not serving the Holy Spirit, you are not serving God, you are not confessing Christ, but you are trying to invoke the gods.
Well, exactly, Michael. And remember, in the beginning of this session, this earlier, I don't know, half hour ago, we were speaking about a dichotomy. And quite frankly, there is no dichotomy. The real dichotomy is, obviously everyone that reads and understands the scriptures knows the real dichotomy here. This is a false dichotomy. White and black magic? Come on.
I found that very interesting. Magic was invoked in many kinds of rituals and medical formulae. Interesting, huh? Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's the problem with paganism, Michael. They cannot explain what biblical doctrine is because they have no interest in it at all. None. It's a total, what can we say? Depravity.
They are totally deceived, and they adjust themselves to the majority of people. And as the majority of people always are in the Antichrist spirit on the broad way which leaded to destruction from the Christian biblical standpoint, these majority of people's always been misled. Easily. Because they don't have any foundation. So they go with the flow, with the mainstream.
Right, like the dead fish floating down the river.
Yeah, sure.
I remember there was a photo or a drawing that I found working with Jörg Lissman on some photos for All Roads Lead to Rome some years ago. Jörg Lissman read that entire book. And I found this photo of this river of dead fish, and it just reminds me of that, this huge river of dead fish, just, and this is how the world works. I mean, and I understand that. And when you're young, you do go with the flow because that's all that you know. You don't know of anything else because generally you're just trying to fit in because you're just born into the world. You're just starting to become an adult and you don't understand much of history or why things are the way they are. You're just trying to cope with, getting familiar with things more or less. And that's the most difficult part, if you ask me, is dealing with youth. Because here you are in this prime position to start learning about the Bible. And, you're faced with all kinds of worldly problems or worldly desires in your own members, So you have this war going on that you might not be aware of. It's called the lust of the flesh. And when I was young, Michael, I was warned about this by an elder. But did I really understand it? No, I didn't. Didn't have a freaking clue. That took years and years and years of torment. Sad to say. I think, Michael, you've been through it too. It's just...
There's so many intelligent people you come across, the doctors, educated people, so forth, and you trust them because they are professed, they have studied at university, and it cannot be wrong. My astrology teacher, he studied psychology, he studied medicine.
Yeah, it's called secularism. It's called, being just dead in trespasses and sins. That's what the Bible says about being secular, okay? Dead in trespasses and sins. We were born that way. Oh, yeah. Who is it? Lady Gargoyle? She's got a song, Born This Way or something? Yeah.
Lady Gaga, yeah. Yeah.
I can't stand this stuff. But, hey, you know what? It's popular.
Yeah, sure, the broad way, the majority of people, sure.
Oh,
If you want to make it in this world, you have to adjust to the majority of people.
you know, I mean, I got nothing against the people. It's just the mindset. It's like, you know, some people prefer Elton John, others prefer Peter Gabriel. But what does it end up to be? The same damn thing at the end. Deception.
Yeah, so in ancient Mesopotamia, speaking of thousands of years before, the only major difference was the fact that curses were enacted in secret. Ah, okay. Ah, how nice. Curses. If you go down that path, Brett, you will never.
Yeah, that's right. You know, the Bible says here in the book of Proverbs that, here, let me hold that thought. I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, okay. So in between, I make a very profound claim here from Wikipedia. It's been said, or it's been written here actually, the ancient Mesopotamians made no distinction between rational science and magic. Oh. So their rational knowledge, science means knowledge. Knowledge and magic means that the people with the highest knowledge would be the magicians, because there is no difference. If you are really educated, then you are also educated in making magic. And what is magic? Magic is, once again, a priestly tribe from the Magi, which means there is no difference between science and religion. This is very interesting here. We could go into the footnotes of it all, but if we would like to go down the road and believe the author here, then it would appear that actually people who are in the contact with the spiritual world, because they are practicing magic, they are being sort of the so-called wise men. Yeah, this is the root. Civilizations of the ancient Near East.
Here it is, Michael. Luke chapter 11.
You did catch my train of thoughts here.
I'm sorry, I was looking something up, Michael. I didn't.
Okay, I just said that the ancient Mesopotamians, according to Wikipedia, made no distinction between rational science and magi, which means there was no distinction between science and religion, because you see that magic derived from Magus, the one who knows, and it was a priestly tribe. So there is no difference in the Mesopotamian Rome between knowledge and religion. So the people who were the magi, the one to know how to proceed with magic, would be the scientists, or their scientists.
Would it be fair to say, Michael, there was no difference between science and ritual?
Yeah, when it comes down to religious ritual, yeah.
You know, because you have pagan rites.
Yeah, it's a pagan religion. Sure, you have pagan rites. The difference is that magi derives from a priestly tribe, and so it has something to do with an invocation of a spirit. So you ask the spirits to support. So there was no distinction between logical knowledge and their priestly tribe. So they thought that when a magician or a priest has come up with something, that is knowledge. So we don't know from which source the magician or the priest had been influenced with, but the general people, they sell or they buy everything that the priest is telling them or the magician is telling them. They are buying it. As what's that guy? The cable guy would yell into your face. They're buying it. Yeah. Okay, so you got with verse of Luke 2?
Oh, Luke chapter 11.
11.
You know, this is actually one verse, chapter 11, verse 11. But, you know, the gist of this teaching goes back to basically the whole chapter. But I think to sum it up, let's read Luke 11:10, which reads, "For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh, it shall be opened. And if a son shall ask bread of any of you that is a father, he will give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he for a fish give him a serpent? That's really what I wanted to get to.
It's
You know,
Mhm.
why should we have an evil and malicious spirit with the people of the world for vessels that are fitted for destruction, if it were possible that we do not know for certain, you know, what God's plans are with the souls of men? I mean, we know what the Bible says about it, but are we really in a position to judge a man, Michael?
Mhm.
Some people say yes,
Mhm.
I would imagine.
Yeah, we hope for the best, actually. We pray for the best outcome. We pray for the people who are in need. But we can
But,
only pray. We
I
can.
can't help it, Michael. I tend to think, we shouldn't put our position in so high that we can claim to have authority over another. We shouldn't do that. That's dangerous.
No, authority is not the word we use in the Bible. It says it's all brothers and sisters, actually. But authority is just from the worldly system, that somebody is calling himself a master, for example, or a
Well,
king,
but
or a
let's look
king,
at this.
even a king.
Let's look at this in terms of biblical research, okay? Because we're researchers and we study the Bible. Are we to be in a position to judge our brethren? I don't think so, unless God has appointed us as a judge. Isn't that true? Because doesn't it say in Scripture that that there are those who appoint themselves judges? But this is not an easy topic right here, but it's something I've been struggling with. You know, to put yourself in a position where you feel you are have some kind of biblical authority over another. That's a very dangerous position, if you ask me, Michael. Very dangerous.
If you can see my screen, you see my point. Because when in Luke 11:11, he's been saying that if he asks a fish is also, of course, it's food, which
Yes.
Jesus Christ created.
Yep.
Yeah, so a fish has a resemblance of food with Jesus Christ. Will he, for a fish, give him a serpent? So serpent is a directly hint for Satan. So if somebody asks for Christ or for food or food for thought, shall you give him a serpent? Shall you give him a malicious person instead, or a malicious priest? Yeah, or especially Satan, because the serpent is the old devil called the serpent and the dragon and etc. etc. So that absolutely there's a big difference between good and evil here. Fish and serpent.
Big difference. Big difference. And we can continue from there and finish this off. Or if he shall ask an egg, will he offer him a scorpion? If ye then, being evil, know how to give good gifts unto your children, how much more shall your heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to them that ask him? So perhaps I'm taking this out of context a little bit, but yeah, I think good to be graceful and forgiving with others, Michael, no matter what. No matter what.
You never know when God is stepping in. We will never know. It's His plans. His way is higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We cannot know. We can only hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
So that
okay,
is
enough of that.
God's plan. Huh?
Just needed to touch on that for a moment.
Mhm. So doctors would prescribe, very carefully here. When a person became ill, doctors would prescribe both magical formulas to be recited as well as medical treatments. I don't think that many doctors nowadays are have the knowledge of that. Most magical rituals were intended to be performed by an asipun expert in the magical arts. The profession was generally passed down from generation to generation and was held in extremely high regard and often served as advisors to kings. Can you remember when we talked about the Magi some sessions before, that the Magi actually were these people who were electing the king? There you got it once again in the Mesopotamia, even not only in Medo-Persia. So I would like to look it up what an asipu is. An asipu is an ancient Mesopotamian, somebody who acted as priest. So once again, magic and priest, once again that combination. There were scholars and practitioners of diagnosis and treatment in the Tigris-Euphrates Valley of Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, around 3,200 before Christ, even before the flood. Somebody would read down there, oh, okay, there's the experts of all the ancient times. No. It is quite actual that these people, the professed people, you got once again the combination of people who are really in the knowledge, the really wise guys, the magi's, the people who are actually working with magic. These were the advisors to kings because, of course, the king wanted to have the best advisors. They wanted to have the biggest knowledge. The whole kingdom depended on the knowledge. About the knowledge of being in a good shape, having good health, knowledge about your enemies, knowledge about traditions, knowledge about rulership, knowledge about special rights, knowledge about everything. And Asipo probably served not only as a magician but also as a physician. So once again, a priest, a scribe, and a scholar. You see that this combination, is science the new religion? No, science is the oldest religion everywhere. Because in the oldest times, people who were invocating spirits, people who were practicing priests, magi's, served also as physicians, as a priest, as a scribe, and a scholar. So you got the priests and the scribes.
Mm-hmm.
You got the priests and the scribes in the Bible when it has been described that these were the people, I think it was session 3 or so, the chief priest and scribes. That was, I think, it was the original quote, chief priest and scribes. Let's look it up. Yeah. And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes.
There you go. The presbyters.
Everybody who was being implemented in this conspiracy against Jesus Christ, let's put it that way, must be in a spirit of Antichrist. It is officially said that Judas Iscariot was being possessed when he was having Last Supper.
That's right. Didn't Jesus say, "Whatever you do, do quickly"?
Do quickly, yeah. Even he got a command from Jesus Christ himself. But people actually also, I think that many times I have overlooked it. Do it quickly. Hope I find it. Then it says. Yeah, it has been can be modified a bit, but whatever you do it quickly. Yeah, there you go. King James version. I don't know which version it was, but nevertheless.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. John 13:21.
27. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 27. Okay. There you go.
Then said Jesus unto him, that thou dost do quickly. That is a command.
Yeah, right after Satan entered into him.
That is a command.
Yep.
So Satan has to obey Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ah. Okay, so now we have made a big step forward, that we know that even in the ancient times, speaking of 3,200 before, so that means more than 5,200 years before, these people were serving, who have so-called magicians, were also serving as a physician, as a priest, as a scribe, and a scholar. The Sumerian god Enki, who was later syncretized with the East Semitic god Ea, this is also a very underrated word here, syncretized, was closely associated with magic and incantations. He was the patron god of the Baru, and the Asipum was widely regarded as the ultimate source of all arcane knowledge. Arcane, you know that from tarot, means secret knowledge. Oh, knowledge of the snake, knowledge of the serpent, secret. The ancient Mesopotamians also believed in omens, which could come when solicited or unsolicited. Regardless of how they came, omens were always taken with the utmost seriousness. This is a depiction of an incantation bowl.
The session
Music.
right after the music, when you have the little spiral deal with the pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
This is very similar to that.
Yeah, also that is, but also the spiral is about also an Egyptian goddess, if I remember correctly, and serves other purposes, and is also a reference to a thing which will come later up in the session.
Oh, and occultism, yeah, sure.
It's so right in the eye that it will hurt many people when we will talk about that subject. Yeah? Because the best hidden secret are the secrets which are in plain sight. Yeah, so you don't hide your money in a safe, because everybody assumes that you hide your money in the safe. So that is the first thing where the thief will look upon. Oh, has he got a safe? You got a secret picture or what else? You have to have it. You have to have your secrets in the open. People don't get what the Roman Catholic Church is. People don't get what Satan is. It's right in the open, but people don't see it because they are not trained to see. So it's the best hidden in plain sight. And people said, "Oh, that cannot be. Every time I'm approaching the church, and what is he telling me?" Yes, that was my voice. So this is an incantation poem. For what purpose? Not to just make a little bit of music for the household. No, it is about for incantation. Yeah. A set of shared assumptions about the causes of evil and how to avert are being found in the form of early projective magic called incantation bowl or magic bowl. So magic, once again, has something to do with evil. Incantation. The bowls were produced in the Middle East, particularly in Upper Mesopotamia and Syria, what is now Iraq and Iran, and fairly popular during the 6th to 8th centuries. 6 to 8 centuries? Wasn't that the time when the Israelites were captive in Babylonia, Mesopotamia? Okay, so these bows were buried face down and were meant to capture demons. Oh, when it would be so easy, Brad. That would be a great idea, huh? A great business idea to sell incantation bows to people and say that whatever the problem is, just write it down, bury it in the ground, and put an incantation bowl up on it. I'm not joking. I think that many people believe in any kind of superstition, right?
Well, especially if they don't have any true doctrine, then yeah.
If there would be somebody in a white dress with a academic title which tells you that, oh, you have to you're only allowed to crawl 2 foot high, otherwise you will be deleted by a laser beam or by a poisonous disease or what else. I think that the majority of people would crawl because they are so feared, because some magician or doctor or who else had ordered them to do so, and he has got the authority. Yeah, and so people in the old times, they said that, okay, when we put an incantation bowl upon something, then we are being protected. So that means that evil comes out of the earth. It doesn't come from the sky, it doesn't come from the spirit, it comes out of the earth. Would it be so easy? Then our life would be very, 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 very improved. So the boats were buried face down and were meant to capture demons. So demons are supposed to live underneath, under the earth. Okay. Ask Mr. Mike Oldfield. I think it is no coincidence that he was giving the title of his album in the 1980s called Incantations. So many overlooked things. In Egypt also, magic was personified by the god Heka, was an integral part of religion and culture, which is known to us through a substantial corpus of texts which are products of the Egyptian tradition. Also, Mr. Crowley was very much into Egyptian tradition and Egyptian gods and the Age of Horus and everything else. He has a visit of a supernatural being when he was doing rituals in Egypt in early 1904 or something like that. Yeah, so it has been given from Babylonian to Mesopotamia, hence the name Magi, to Egypt and also once again, of course, to Greece, etc., which we will handle later on. Yeah? There is also a book of the dead. What does the Bible tells you? That the dead know nothing. But this is the Bible and not the Egyptian mythology. In the Egyptian mythology, this is the book of the dead. The opening of the mouth ceremony. Yeah. Isn't that interesting that it goes on and on? Of course, amulets are being meant to protect people. Yeah. So you got something material where any evil spirit is afraid of. I could think of some records been played that even evil spirits would flee. Yeah. But of course, that's just only a joke. The use of amulets was widespread, also not among the Egyptians, but also we have learned from the protective magic in Babylonia and also in Judea. You see that also the Jewish mysticism belief is derived from the Egyptian captivity and the Babylonian captivity. Yeah, there also was the source for the so-called, how to say it, the Knights Templars, who came back with magical practice and the worship of Baphomet and sacrifices, etc. So therefore they were then banned by the Pope himself in, what was it, 1302? I think it was 1302.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Somewhere in there. And also in a Greco-Roman world, you see that soon we will approach Greece. Yeah. So the English word magic has its origin in ancient Greece as the word, not the art, the word. Yeah. During the late 6th and early 5th century, the Persian magos was Grecinicized, so put into Greece language. And
yes.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult word to pronounce. Grecinicized or something?
Grecinicized, yeah, okay.
I don't know.
And introduced into the ancient Greek language as, you see it.
Greek, yeah. Can't read that.
So it gained negative connotation, interesting, with the magos being regarded as a charlatan whose ritual practices were fraudulent, strange, unconventional, and dangerous. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think they have not considered the fact that the magos was a priest or a priestly tribe. Or maybe they found their religion from Medo-Persia and Babylonia a little bit more stranger than their own strange.
Well, I think the last word pretty much sums it up. Dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were not into syncretism. These are hard words here. But they wanted to have their own belief exclusively for the Greeks. Yeah. So, for the ancient Greece and subsequently for the ancient Romans, yeah, magic was not distinct from religion, but rather an unwelcome, improper expression of it, the religion of the other. Once again, the combination of magic with religion. Once again, cannot help it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So the historian Richard Gordon suggested that for the ancient Greeks, being accused of practicing magic was a sort of a form of insult. Yeah, it's also for Christianity. Everywhere you come around, the fact that sorcery means witchcraft or means magic. I think I don't have to go into
Well,
a full
sorcery
of-
really is a demonic thing, so malicious, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The fearful, unbelieving, apistos, abominable,
Murderers, whoremongers,
murderers, whoremongers, sorcerers. There it is.
idolaters, and
Yeah,
all liars.
You see, he also, I have mentioned now the book of Revelation for the fact that it has been written in Greece. Yeah. So you got the Greece pharmakeos, huh? Pharmakon, a drug that is spell-giving potion. Once again, you have the combination, Brett, of
But
magic.
look at this. It's also poisoner. Poisoner. Someone who administers poison.
Mm-hmm.
Do people associate pharmacy with poison? No. They think it's healing. They think it's the opposite. When in reality, it's just poison.
Mm-hmm.
That's malicious. It's demonic.
Yeah, you can also ask what kind of spirit did Mike Oldfield incantation was about. we are not going into Mike Oldfield now, but you see, just to see it is pharmakeos. It's from pharmacy, a drug, a potion, a druggist, a poisoner. That is by extension a magician. So it's all about pharmacy, is about magic. Aha, interesting, huh? You don't want to know my thoughts of that. I think I have to spare it for another session because we would go far beyond any science now here for the Magi part. Yeah. So once again, you see that it has been developed from a priestly concept in the Babylonian and Medo-Persian time by also this special tribe called Magi. That it is then been handed over to the Greeks in other names to the Egypt people, inhabitants, and then to the Roman Empire. Yeah. This change in meaning was influenced by the military conflict that the Greek city-states were then engaged in against the Persian Empire. Aha! So they thought they have to set them apart from these magi. So in that context, I'd say that magi was then in Greek a little bit negative meant, because it also meant that the priests of the Medo-Persians. You see that Greek is the absolute successor of the Medo-Persian Empire. We will later on discover that also in the Metal-Man figure of Daniel. Okay. So in the 1st century before Christ, the Greek concept of the Magos was adopted into Latin and used by a number of ancient Roman writers as Magus, of course, US, like Jesus, and Magia. The earliest known Latin use of the term was in Virgil's Eclogue, written around 40 BC, which makes reference to magici sacris, magic rites. Aha, sacred rites. Interesting, huh? Sacred rites. Yeah, you see that, in other words, Brett, we do not find a separation between magic and religion. We do not find it. We see everywhere the connection. Mm-hmm. The Romans call supernatural powers a saga or beneficius, but you see that apart from that, it was been handed over. Also, the knowledge has been handed over. Yeah, you will. I think that maybe I would have to look it up, but I know that I have found the fact that also these people in what was it? Also in Revelation 2, the town where Satan dwelleth. It was in Revelation 2. I'm quite sure. Yeah, you see, I know thy works and thy labor and thy patience, and how you canst not bear them which are evil, and thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and hast found them liars.
You would have to do a word.
Here it is, to the church in Pergamum.
There you go.
And to the angel of the church in Pergamos. Right, these things said he which had the sharp swords, Jesus Christ, with 2 edges. I know their works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is, and that is in Pergamum. Aha. Where is Pergamum? Pergamum. Oh, it's a city in Turkey, which then was under the rule, I think, from the Greek Empire, and then later on, of course, of the Roman Empire. So that is the city where the Bible, specifically the book of Revelation, talks about that it was the seat of Satan. Hence, it's a Latin name, Pergamum, of Pergamon, a city in Minor Asia. Okay, that's where the Pergamon temple came from. Yeah. During the Hellenistic period, it became the capital of the kingdom of Pergamon in 281 to 133 under the Attalid dynasty, who transformed it into one of the major cultural centers of the Greek world. Aha! Aha! I think that's no surprise that it is in the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2014. I can tell you that I received the information out of a book, which I cannot recall at the moment, that the priests of Pergamon, explicitly, they were hiding the priests of Babylon. So that Pergamon was the main city where all the pagan priests, or let us say the pagan magicians, were gathering. And so that would absolutely make sense in the line of the Bible when he said that it's a church in Pergamon, which means a religious gathering, a church in Pergamon, and the church in Pergamon of Satan. So Satan's church was in Pergamon. So my book, which I cannot recall which source it was, but I have written it down. I have checked it yesterday evening. Says that the Pergamon priests, they hide all these Babylonian and Medo-Persians magi's and priests. And that would absolutely make sense, because there was the seat of Satan. There was the Pergamon altar, the seat of Satan. That's why it is in the UNESCO World Heritage List. Satan's throne. The great altar of Pergamon, now in Berlin. And I wouldn't want to live in Berlin.
No.
Just because of that. It's been erected in Berlin. Why? I think we will find out in a few years when it has been reopened. But at the moment it is under restoration and renovation. Officially explanation. Huh? So, all these things, you don't have to go into every nitty-gritty and every source here. Magic and religion are interwoven. These are two combined things. This is magic, this is magi, these are religious rites. Try to have a practice to invoke spirits. That's it, actually. And the practice of magic was banned in the late Roman world and the Codex Theodosianus 438 after Christ states, if a wizard, therefore a person imbued with magical contamination who is called by custom of the people a magician, should be apprehended in my retinue, I don't know what it is.
Maybe a district or something, yeah.
Okay. Or in that of the Caesar, he shall not escape punishment and torture by the protection of his rank. 438 AD. That is way, about more than 100 years later than was Roman Catholicism was established.
Wow. So Aleister Crowley is our modern example of this I don't know how on earth this guy got to the position where he was, other than working for the dark powers, Satan's seat. Coming up with these satanic commandments, Michael, it couldn't be more simple. I mean, that's paganism in a nutshell, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
It's so strange. I'm looking it up at the same moment from Mike Oldfield. Incantations is a studio album of 1978 consisting of part 1, 2, 3, 4. There are even no titles about that. And he said he recalled that his initial goal was a record that contained real incantations to exert a benign magical influence on anybody who heard it. I have to show.
Yeah, to place a magic spell. That's when
I have to. You won't believe it if you won't see it. Mike Oldfield, Incantations. It's so out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's 40 years plus, but nevertheless, you see that it's all about paganism.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There it is.
When work on incantations began, Oldfield recalled that his initial goal was a record that contained, quote, real incantations to exert a benign magical influence on anybody who heard it, unquote. He intended to base the music around real spells and chants and asked the A&R department of his label, Virgin Records, to invite the head druid to his home and discuss it further. The visit was unsuccessful. Oldfield's request for magic spells was turned down, and he got the impression that the person was more interested in converting him to the movement. Keith Critchlow then introduced Oldfield to various quote-unquote strange people to gain inspiration, including poet Kathleen Rain, whose poems failed to conjure strong enough music, and a, quote, shaman gypsy type woman, unquote, who remained silent all through her meeting with Oldfield. Then a Virgin employee researched into British folklore and suggested Gog and Magog, from which Oldfield was able to find incantations that worked, specifically about Diana and the Huntress. When he then used a running theme throughout the album. Okay.
Mm-hmm. We should have handled that in the Peter Gabriel sessions when we did that excerpt on The Exorcist, when the music was derived from the old film album Tubular Bells. But you see that this is also a find, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oldfield wanted to present some magical things. It's unbelievable. Oldfield also has a history of being an openly admitted LSD user in the 60s.
Sure.
There was one interview which we talked about in the Peter Gabriel scripts.
Mm-hmm.
But you see that actually the things are in the open. This is open magic.
Mm-hmm.
This is open magic. We're speaking about 1977, 78. It's not Middle Ages, Brett. It's not ancient times, not 3000 before Christ. But everybody thinks that, magic is just some illusions.
Yeah, see, Virgin Records happens to be Richard Branson, which is the fellow that is doing these flights, so-called flights into space at the moment. Mm-hmm. Have you seen these ads that he's put out, Michael, yet?
No, I just read the articles. Mm-hmm.
Sure. So yeah, for what, $20 million, you can get a flight up into space. Gee, that's worth it, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
How many children could you feed with that money?
Yeah, I don't know how much money it is, but listen, anything over...
For the love of money, huh?
It's just absurd what people do. What people do for attention, Michael, is absurd.
The lyrics to part 1 repeat the name of 3 Roman goddesses, Diana, Luna, and Lucina.
Ooh.
You know that Diana was was the main goddess in Bath, where Peter Gabriel is located.
Yeah.
Bath, where the the healing waters and the forest of Diana. It's well, but people do not believe in that. But actually, I think that this guy believes in that, Mike Oldfield, and I think that would you say that he's an unknown artist? 1978, he made incantations to Roman goddesses' bread, Magi, which is a complete episode about Simon the Magus. But then it's for another session. So thank you very much. And I'm handing it over to my beloved brother, Brad.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. It's always a journey into this chaotic realm of the despotic powers of this world, and most of the time we have to plead ignorance. We don't study these things enough, Michael. We don't retain this kind of knowledge because, it is rather disturbing. But the Bible does tell us that we should be as wise as serpents and as harmless as doves. So we need to think about these, really quite dark things that are going on around us, because and be aware of them, because then we're prepared to deal with these circumstances. Otherwise, we're just going to plead ignorance, and ignorance is not going to help us out. Like burying your head in the sand, Michael. It doesn't help you determine where the enemy is. You just collapse and give up. It's like just remaining silent when you know that the house is about to burn down. You need to warn the inhabitants of the house, all of your pets, to get out. And we as brethren, we are supposed to read, study our Bible, and then go out and spread the word to others. Now, if others are going to be engaged in these kinds of activities, then very likely they're going to have very little interest in, doing a study with you. But still, the message needs to go out. And the numbers don't necessarily matter so much. It's the message, it's the quality that matters. It's the very essential lesson and the message of the gospel that matters the most, I think, Michael. Mm-hmm. And that's what we wish to do, wish to continue on this path. And we wish to inform our brethren and also those that might be on the fence, those lost sheep, those lost children of Israel that have the ability to be picking up where our elders have left off, those who have passed away before us, in the message of true reform. That is, truly getting to the root of the problem here that we're dealing with. And that's what we're doing on these sessions. And we're looking very closely into these scientific terms and these circumstances that the beast is putting us into. And by the beast, I mean quite simply, the despotic power of this world. And we see the despotic power of this world in very high places, and they are trying to flex their muscles and trying to get the people to conform to their will. But guess what? It's like clay and iron. We know they do not mix. The iron cannot tell the clay, and the clay cannot tell the iron. They're opposed to one another. They will never resolve. So we end up with wars. We end up with people dying. And we end up with other things such as plagues and pestilences. And I think we're in that time right now where the enemy has taken precedence over the, let's call it what it is, the righteous form of government that the Bible speaks of in Romans chapter 13. And people have used this doctrine to, you got to read and study on your own to take a look at this. But Romans 13 goes into the powers of government. And, I would say, Michael, that, what happened in Germany in the early to mid 40s was a very awful thing. And that, after that whole episode had passed, that immediately after that, many of the people that survived would say, never again do we want to put our people through this again. But here in the United States, where we haven't had those kinds of problems, there's no real consequence of that. So the power structure has to deal with this country differently than it does deal with the power in Europe. And there's great divisions here. But I think the essential lesson is that if we do not study our history, if we do not look at all of these problems, then we are doomed to repeat them. And this is something we discussed with Daryl Eberhard yesterday. And, I just wish there was a way to turn the tide, but you know what? It doesn't look too good, Michael.
Mm.
It just doesn't look too good. But all we can do is hope and pray that God's people will be ready for what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I so regret that I could not go into Simon Magus, but watch the next episode. Oh, wow. Watch the next episode. Then we will finally have the last part of the Magi, and after that we are going into Greece. Mm-hmm. Not John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, but Greece, the country, huh? Not the movie.
Yeah, well, we've done a lot with sorcery, so that would make sense, Michael. That's right. That really brings us back to several years ago when we did the study in the Book of Acts. So really looking forward to that, Michael. So I guess we're going to shut down the session for today.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to the YouTube session, and we just hope that you can endure along with us all the trials to come in these interesting and difficult days we live in. So God bless and Maranatha. And don't forget that the 70th week of Daniel has been fulfilled, and that we are going to witness some very, well, I would think very difficult things in the future. Just seems to be that way, Michael. I can't envision how we're going to get it easy, Michael. I just can't see how it's going to be easy.
Yeah, that's why
very stressful days we live in right now.
That's why I have displayed here Ephesians 6:11 and 12.
Yes, thank you. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places. And with that, we'll end it. And Maranatha.